you? It is so good to see you, Dr. Blye Frank. You've joined us here this evening so that we can chat with you a little bit about being our recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be joining you, particularly under these circumstances of receiving the Distinguished Alumni Award from Acadia.
Well, we're going to take this opportunity in the next little while. Of course, most people would have read your biography, read the promotional pieces that we shared with our alumni community about you being the recipient of the award this year. But we'd like to offer an opportunity for our alumni community to get to know you a little bit better with some questions that I'm going to pose of you. And feel free to fill us in on whatever you'd like to share with us.
Great, thanks.
Let's get started. What attracted you to Acadia in the first place?
Well, two things actually. One was that Acadia had established and continues to have an excellent reputation, both as an undergraduate and at the master's level, graduate level. So I was attracted to the reputational factor. And also, I was teaching at Horton District High School at the time. So there was an accessibility factor, which we talk much more about these days. So for people, and I'm not suggesting that Wolfville is necessarily rural and remote, but I think that Nova Scotia is very fortunate to have the number of degree granting institutions that it has in the province, but particularly located in small towns like Wolfville. So it was an accessibility issue as well as a reputational issue. I was teaching at Horton without a first degree at the time as a graduate of the Nova Scotia Teachers College. Felt very fortunate to be there and very fortunate to be teaching in close proximity to a university town. So part of it was accessibility.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And you're absolutely right. We certainly agree with you on our little gem that we have in the rural part of Nova Scotia. And for our viewers who don't know or haven't read, three of your four degrees are from Acadia. So if I have that correct, and obviously Acadia was a good experience for you, and we're glad that you did choose us. Is there anyone you met on campus who was particularly influential in your life and your career choices during your time that you spent here?
Well, thanks for asking because I think individuals make a huge or can have a huge influence and impact, including during a student's university experience. So in my case, there are probably two. One from the sociology department, Jim Sacrament, who has established a reputation at Acadia and in the community. And Jim had a huge impact personally, professionally, and academically on me, certainly around issues of confidence. At the time, I had no inkling that I would do a PhD eventually and become a university professor. And it was certainly Jim's influence that led me in that direction. And the second one was Pat O'Neill, Dr. O'Neill in the Department of Psychology, who taught community psych. And for me, that was really moved the needle in my academic career about no longer thinking of just individuals, which psychology may have somewhat of that focus, but the individual in community and the individual in society. And, my work, both and there are other people as well, of course, but my work, both because of Jim and Pat, has really taken a particular pathway around those issues of everything from community to equity to accessibility and so on.
So the seed was planted, and from there it has flourished into an extensive and far reaching career for you.
Well, 51 years, yes. So just now, coming up June, will be 51 years. I actually started teaching at Horton in 1969.
Wow.
So it's
So
been a long career.
not just yesterday. Yeah.
No.
And I have two sons who went through Horton, so they had certainly had a recent quality experience there. But to hear how you made that decision, as you say, accessibility and sort of Acadia being right under your nose, and then having that experience with those two particular people, but obviously others along the way, I have no doubt, and how it has, as I say, generated that interest in you, and it's sort of flourished from there into 51 years. I believe that there may be a retirement in your near future. Is that true?
Yes, so at the end of June, I'm finished my second term as dean here at UBC. So that's 10 years. Uh, Let me say that I was at Dalhousie in the Faculty of Medicine previous to this appointment, and I actually thought I would retire at Dal. I didn't think that I'd be taking up, as I say, another gig at my age uh, back then. But UBC offered me the position, and I probably wouldn't have moved at that point except to come to UBC and to the Faculty of Education as dean. I had been here as a visiting scholar twice. So I knew UBC and the faculty somewhat. Of course, they never tell you everything when you're being interviewed. So, yes, end of June, I will go on admin leave for 18 months, and then I will formally retire from UBC. Yes.
Well, that's wonderful, and you know what? I'll speak for the entire East Coast and say we'll take you back anytime.
Well, I'm coming back. Yes. No, I'm not sure that I will. I actually booked my flight yesterday, so I'm coming back to Nova Scotia on the 2nd of July, immediately following my leave. I think it will be good to have some separation, both for the new dean and for myself. And Nova Scotia is very much home. The Annapolis Valley is very much home. Originally, I was a valley boy and love the valley. And so, yes, I'm coming home, as I like to say, and very much looking forward to it.
Well, that's wonderful news, and you will certainly see a lot of changes, I'm sure, since your departure along the way. And I'm sure I would have had visits along the way, but not recently. So we're happy to have you. So before we move away from your specific experience at Acadia, if you're willing to share your fondest memory with us.
Well, as a global kind of memory, it's about the size. Acadia uh, creates a sense of intimacy for students that a large university, it just simply isn't possible. When you have 450 students in an undergraduate course, the relationship between student to professor is very different than when you have classes the size that one has at Acadia. So my fondest memory is getting to know other students and also the professors. I mean, I think you really get to know your professors in a way that in large institutions it just wouldn't be possible. And some of those relationships have been very long lasting. So I will give an example. Ron Shubrook, who taught in the Faculty of Arts in the arts unit. I've recently been communicating with Ron on email, who lives in Guelph, Ontario, and went on to be the president of the Ontario College of Art, but also maintains a property in Blandford, Nova Scotia. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing Ron when I return to Nova Scotia. And that's just to say that those are the kinds of relationships one can create in a smaller university like Acadia that are maintained for a lifetime.
It gives me great joy to have these types of conversations with people in our alumni community who say the same thing about that intimacy and the relationships that you've developed, because you can, because of that intimacy and because of
Mhm.
the size. And it's wonderful to hear that A, you had that experience as a student, but B, that they've carried on.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed that both during my time there in the development of those relationships and the ongoingness, as you say, of them. Yeah.
So, what does it mean to you? We're interviewing you this evening because you're the recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award. What does it mean to you to have received that award from the Alumni Association?
Well, first of all, let me say how privileged I feel to receive the award. A recognition like this from Acadia or Acadia Alumni Association, where, as you mentioned near the beginning, I hold 3 degrees: a BA, a BEd, and a master's degree in education. So to be recognized by Acadia, I feel grateful. I feel a bit surprised. Uh, as I say, feel very privileged. And, it really makes me think, you in your position, you can hold on to this. It makes me think about my reach out and give back and so on to Acadia upon my return, because, I've been at a distance and I haven't done that. And, as I say, teaching at Horton, I lived in Wolfville for 20 years. So I know the environment and the people rather well. So yeah, it's a privilege. It's an honor. And I feel grateful.
Well, it's an honor for us to be able to award you with it, and absolutely is another piece of my job that is, endearing. And when you return, we'll roll out the red carpet for you. Absolutely. And you heard it here, so you can hold me to it. So the alumni
Oh, I
association.
wasn't suggesting the red carpet. I was
Oh no, I'll do
suggesting
that.
about ways that I could give back to Acadia. I'm sure there are many. Anyway, I'll just plant that seed.
Perfect. And we'll take walks through town, and I can update you on things and update you on the campus, and it'll be wonderful. So the Alumni Association, as you likely know, has a fairly robust awards program. So just having now been a recipient, why do you think it's important for the Alumni Association to recognize members of our alumni community? And you may have sort of started to allude to it a little bit in your last answer, but
Well, I'll start there. So, I think it also, when people are recognized by institutions like a university because they're alum, I if they haven't had an ongoing connection, my suspicion is it will help them reestablish that connection. And I think that that means that those individuals will find ways of giving back to Acadia. Through those connections. I also think it's important for the university in terms of reputational factors, quite frankly, to demonstrate to the public. This sounds boastful, and I don't mean it at all to be that. I mean that I think it's important for communities to recognize locally, provincially, nationally, internationally about how successful some of the graduates of their institution have been. I mean, as we've said before, the size of the institution does not equal the quality of the experience. So, some people can be very boastful about large institutions in this country and others, when small institutions are often jewels.
mm,
They're just treasures, particularly for undergraduate degrees and so on. So I think that recognizing the success of some alum helps establish in the minds of communities, as I say, be they locally or much more nationally and internationally, reputational factors for the university.
mm. Well, and it's certainly people like you who help us with that reputational factor when we're able to celebrate our alumni who are doing terrific things around the world. So thank you. You make our job pretty easy.
Yes, thank you.
So, you've been a powerful advocate at local, national, and international levels for gender equity, sociology, and literacy throughout your career, yet you remain committed to your Nova Scotia roots. Can you describe the foundational lessons that you learned in your formative years at Acadia and the impact that they have had on your career as an educator, an administrator, a researcher, and an innovator?
Wow, that's a big one. Uh, I probably, I'll go back to the kind of environment. So I say to my own faculty members, there are three things as a dean, and there are more than three, of course, but three things that have always been foundational to my positions of leadership. One is relationships, relationships, relationships. And two is communication, communication, communication. And the third one, of course, which is very important in an academic environment, but in many environments, including in family environments, is transparency. And I think those three foundational pieces were really put in place at Acadia. The relationship one, which I've mentioned more than once, the importance of communication, which is so woven into those relationships. And then we might call transparency many different things, but it's tied to notions of authenticity. One can't be very transparent unless you're being authentic. And, those were foundational values and what I like to call practices, which I think were instilled in me along the way at Acadia in those 3 degrees.
Mhm. And have taken you to where you are now.
Yeah, I still use those, as I say, as dean. I often uh, s- say that to my faculty about those, what I consider are three really important foundational pieces to how I think I operate, at least most of the time in my deanship here. Yeah, so they've carried along through the way, and those are also then so clearly related to other issues which you've named have been really important in my career, uh, diversity, uh, access, uh, uh, celebrating difference, and be that during my time in medicine or during my time in teaching school or during my time as dean here and so on. Yeah, they've woven them, they're pretty tightly woven into who I am.
Well, and relationships, communication, and transparency, if they existed in so many walks of life, we would certainly be in a much better place. So take those three and help continue to help sprinkle them around where they need to be, because absolutely, I too see them as integral pieces for sure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think, well, you're welcome. I think that, yeah, as I say, if you don't have the three of those things, or at least two of the three kind of underway, the rest of it never happens in the way you want it to happen.
Yeah, we'll take that to the bank.
Okay.
So the last question I have for you, Dr. Frank, is to ask you what you're currently doing and what your future plans are. And again, we've covered that a little bit, but I'm going to ask anyway in case there's another little tidbit or two that you would like to share.
Well, I'll take a bit of a pause. We have a house rented by the ocean in Nova Scotia. It'll probably be required to quarantine still. So, if that's the case, then we'll do our quarantining there. And then, to be uh, a bit personal, we own a condo in Halifax, so we'll locate ourselves there at least for the time being and see how that goes. I've uh, the search firms still come knocking. They do on many doors, of course, so it's not just me or in this direction that they knock. So there are two things. One is when I keep saying, go away, I'm old now, I'm retiring. Uh, they say, well, we also do the search for boards sometimes.
Mhm.
So I'll be particular and I won't be in a rush. But I've done this in my life previous to being a dean, that is, served on national boards and local boards. As a dean on a large faculty like I have, I just haven't had the time to do it. So I'll be choosy, but I'll think about that. And there's the possibility I might be a filler. People move, people get ill, people make other choices, and all of a sudden a university finds itself in a position where it needs a dean for 6 months or so on. So I'd consider that carefully. I certainly will not do another full time position in any way. So there are some possibilities. And I'll reestablish some relationships. You may or may not know. I'll get the little plug in for my niece, Dr. Leslie Frank, as I refer to her as the other Dr. Frank, which we have a running joke at when she came to visit me the last time she brought me a bag that has on it the other Dr. Frank, so I could be othered rather than Leslie. But Leslie's a Canada Research Chair at Acadia in sociology, so I'll reestablish my family connections. I have a nephew who also graduated with a bachelor's degree in music from Acadia, so lots of family connections still in Nova Scotia, so I'll be reestablishing some of those.
So it sounds like, let's see, you've hit all the marks. You are going to spend some time in the big city. You're going to spend some time on the ocean in Canada's ocean playground. You're going to spend some time in Wolfville with family, possibly with some boards and volunteering, possibly at one of the many institutions in Nova Scotia, but we know which one you're going to give preference to. So I don't necessarily think it sounds like you're going to be, have a lot of time on your hands if you're going to check off all those check marks.
Well, and there are other things like more time to read, of course, more time. And I'll do some writing. I haven't had a lot of time to be writing and publishing in the last 10 years. Bits, you fit it in where you can, but I'll go back to some of my own scholarly work as well. So, yeah. So I don't anticipate that I'll be bored.
I don't think so either. And we certainly look forward to continuing to follow your career, dare I say, career, we'll call it that. And as I say, look forward to welcoming you back to Nova Scotia and back to Acadia and Wolfville. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. As we said at the beginning of the conversation, this is the first time we've spoken face to face, albeit virtually. But I don't know if you've noticed, I don't think I've taken the smile off my face as we've been chatting. It's been absolutely wonderful. So I appreciate the time you shared with us. Thank you. And congratulations wholeheartedly from the Alumni Office, the Office of Advancement, and the Alumni Association on your Distinguished Alumni Award.
Well, thank you very much. Once again, let me say how grateful and how privileged I am to be receiving this award. Thank you.